All right, let's jump straight into today's explainer, crafted specifically for those of you preparing for civil service exams. We're going to break down Nepal's macrogeography and see exactly how it dictates microsocietal impacts. We'll explore how this nation's extreme geographical diversity shapes its climate and, by extension, the fundamental livelihoods of its people. This session is built to give you the precise, authoritative insights you need for competitive, subjective answer writing. To really decode this, we're going to systematically move through 4 core chapters: altitudinal topography, climatic vulnerabilities, livelihood dynamics, and sociocultural adaptations, before wrapping up with strategic policy. Let's get into it.
Chapter 1: Altitudinal Topography and Ecological Belts.
We absolutely have to start with the physical environment. Nepal's dramatic altitudinal gradient is literally the bedrock for all its socioeconomic frameworks. The country is split into 5 distinct physiographic zones. We're launching from the fertile Terai Plains at just 100 meters above sea level, and then the land just shoots rapidly upward. It goes through the fragile Suwalik Hills, up into the temperate Middle Hills, the rugged high mountains, and finally the perpetual snow of the high Himalaya. This isn't just geography, it's a naturally occurring economic zoning map.
Think about this. Nearly a fifth, 18.5% to be exact, of the entire landmass sits above 4,000 meters, peaking at Mount Everest's 8,848.86 meters. When you have that much of your country at extreme elevations, your national infrastructure, transportation, and agricultural strategies are going to face some severe, unavoidable topological bottlenecks. And when you lay the 2015 federal setup over this extreme topography, you get these stark, fascinating contrasts. They dictate entirely different economic and infrastructural challenges for each provincial government. Take Madhesh province, for example. It's entirely flat. It's the agricultural heartland. But then you look at Koshi province, which rapidly transitions through all 5 of those ecological zones, from the low plains of Japa straight up to the peaks of Solukhumbu. As a future administrator, you've got to realize that a one-size-fits-all policy is guaranteed to fail across these highly diverse federal lines. Moving on to Chapter 2, Climatic Zones and Modern Meteorological Vulnerabilities.
So that rugged topography we just talked about, it directly spawns some extreme microclimatic vulnerabilities. Nepal relies heavily, and I mean intensely, on the summer monsoon. It usually runs from June 13th to October 2nd and delivers a massive 80% of the annual precipitation. Because of this, the nation's food and energy security is incredibly vulnerable to even the slightest meteorological shift. If the monsoon is delayed or weak, it doesn't just devastate rain-fed agriculture. It directly threatens the run-of-river hydroplants that power the entire national grid.
And the extremes are getting harsher. In 2024, Nepal recorded 50 extremely hot days above 40 degrees Celsius. We saw agonizing heat waves baking the southern plains for up to 17 consecutive days. These aren't just statistics. These climatic anomalies are actively, fundamentally reshaping what can be grown in the country and exactly where it can be grown.
Which leads us to Chapter 3, Structural Livelihood Dynamics.
All these geographic and climatic pressures are structurally altering how people actually survive. If we look at the latest national sample census of agriculture from 2021 to 2022, a massive 19.44 million Nepalis still rely primarily on farming. That is 62% of all households tethered directly to the land. This makes agricultural policy, without a doubt, the single most impactful socioeconomic lever in the entire country. But here's where it gets really interesting and slightly concerning. We're witnessing a severe structural contraction. Over 10 years, the total number of farming households jumped from 3.71 million to 4.13 million, yet the average land parcel size shrank down to a mere 0.19 hectares. It's a profound agrarian paradox. You have more families, but they're farming significantly less land.
So what's driving this? It's a mix of traditional inheritance laws chopping cultivable land into less and less productive microplots, rapid urban sprawl in the Terai, and a massive abandonment of hilly terraces. In fact, 25 to 30% of hilly agricultural land has been completely abandoned. Why? Because there's a critical lack of rural labor. There simply isn't anyone left to farm it. That brings us right into Chapter 4, Sociocultural Lifestyle Adaptations and Gender Inversion Trends. This massive rural labor vacuum completely changes the demographics, particularly how society and gender roles have to adapt. Right now, over 80% of Nepal's international labor migrants are male, young men heading to India, the Gulf countries, and Malaysia for work. This incredible exodus has catalyzed something called the feminization of agriculture. The agrarian economy has essentially restructured itself entirely around women. They aren't just doing the physical labor anymore. They are now the primary decision makers, managing these farms while simultaneously navigating a deeply entrenched patriarchal system.
The numbers back this up dramatically. In just a decade, female-headed agricultural holdings rocketed from 19% up to 32.4%. But here is the major catch. Despite being the absolute backbone of this sector, women in Nepal earn almost 50% less than men in agriculture. Plus, they face severe legal and cultural hurdles to actually owning the very land they cultivate.
Let's pivot slightly to vernacular architecture and regional structural adaptations. Because beyond labor, this intense geographical diversity dictates entirely different sociocultural adaptations, especially in how people build their homes. It's a direct physical response to their ecological belt. Down in the hot Terai, indigenous Tharu communities utilize bamboo and open courtyards for ventilation. The breathable mud and thatch roofs are absolutely essential for surviving the sweltering summer heat and heavy monsoons. But go up into the high mountains, and it's a completely different story. Sherpa and the Kali populations construct homes with heavy timber and thick, unplastered 20-inch stone walls with tiny windows. It's all about trapping heat. They even keep livestock on the ground floor so that the animal's body heat naturally rises into the living spaces above.
Then, nestled in the Middle Hills, Pahare communities build these multi-story timber and stone homes featuring south-facing verandas explicitly designed to maximize winter solar gain. Every single architectural decision here is literally a masterclass in passive, localized climate adaptation. These methods were perfected over centuries, completely without the use of modern energy-intensive heating or cooling systems.
Finally, Chapter 5, Strategic Policy and Conclusion. Now, let's tie all these topographical, climatic, and demographic realities together into macro policy formulation. This is where observation has to turn into administration. To stabilize this shifting landscape, policies like the Agricultural Development Strategy have to aggressively tackle those gender-biased salary disparities. The state must support this feminized workforce. If women are running the farms, they absolutely need guaranteed legal land rights and equal pay. Furthermore, as rapid urbanization replaces traditional mud and stone with concrete, policymakers really need to enforce building codes that integrate those indigenous passive cooling techniques we just talked about to mitigate the rising threats of urban heat waves.
So, as future public administrators, this is the challenge you have to ask yourselves. How can federal governance turn these intersecting geographic and demographic crises into real opportunities for sustainable modernization? The terrain is undeniably extreme, the climate is shifting fast, and the demographics are completely transforming. How will you write the policies that bridge these immense divides? Keep that in mind as you prepare, and thanks for joining this explainer.